And now it comes to this part of the talk, which is going to carry us a little bit higher in the evolution of our brain. You know, when you have a head injury, severe head injury, your brain aged per se in certain part where it was. It's similar to the aging brain of people who are in the 80, 70, 90, whatever, 60. And just some thoughts here are interesting. The elderly brain usually outperforms the useful brain in judgment. And then Confucius was so adamant about that, he said, a youth who does not respect his elders will achieve nothing when he grows up. And the true dementia only that people are talking about all the time these days, everybody is frightened they're going to get demented at 60, 65. I can reassure you, about only 5% of people above 65 get demented. So you have a good chance of living long. Now, unless you want to live to 100 or 110, your chances will go higher up. So just again, one of the sequela of head injury is severe dementia. And this can occur when memory and language, or two of those together, are skilled. I just threw those slides here to tell you that the future of, besides prevention of head injury, is going to be chemical. And then it's going to be, everything has to be chemical at the end of the day. And this is one of the most common dementia, of course, is still Alzheimer. And you get other stuff down. I put it here just to emphasize, like Alzheimer, which is damaged brain per se, from something else, it's also a chemical business. And drugs are being used now for that. You have good chance of living 122, and like the woman in France, and then you can have good gene and live for a long time. Anyway, now you have to stay sharp. And then you have to stay sharp by protecting your brain. I will tell you how to protect your brain in the second part of this lecture. And then you can eat all these interesting items that people talk about. And then you can feel young. It may protect the brain injured patient, I don't know. But these are things that you can do. Protect your brain primarily if you are sporting by helmeting. And then if you are going to dive in a pool, see it is shallow, water or not. And you look at the ATV, you look at the helmet, and you look, don't go through the frozen and unfrozen pond. All these things are important. Think first before you do any of those things to protect your brain. The hope is this. As I said initially in the beginning here, that we thought we are fixed, rigid, and then we cannot regenerate cells. This is false. We have so-called stem cell neurons, which are hidden deep into the temporal lobe, in the olfactory tract, olfactory bulb, and deep inside the brain in the caudate nucleus. Those neurons can regenerate, create pathway to come in and connect. Those pictures I show you of connection is the most important thing in rehabilitation. And this is why we say time. Of course, time can kill, but time will cure. And then when they ask you a patient who is unconscious, how long is going to get him back to wake up, to communicate, etc. When you look at those anatomy and those chemicals that we don't know nothing about, it takes time. And time is not like an appendix. Time is in months. Time is in years. How long did it take him to recover and stand in front of you today and give you a lecture? It took him a long time. The only drawback, he could have done it better if he had physiotherapy in Ottawa. Therefore, we bring you here now. Anyway, so these are site of hope, neurogenesis site. These are the one I've been talking about, the neuron which are inside you see, and then you recognize the emotion goes into the amygdala, which is deep into the temporal lobe, and then finally in stage 3 you decide, I got to have a date, something like that. So these are all chemical-induced pathway. This is a very good example. This is where we start doing little advances. That's gross advances. MRI. This is functional MRI. You tell somebody to think about something, and then you do X-ray, and then you see where the oxygen input and lightning comes up. Believe it or not, this man was thinking about a lovely woman whom he loved, and then they did that, and they saw those frontal lobe lighting up. So Same thing with the pathway of pain. And you have a chemical substance. You have a pathway. You have a destruction. I'm not going to do it. And in memory, which is important to us today, there is storage, there is retrieval, and also they are all chemical. We know certain pathway, you say, okay, your temporal lobe is damaged on both sides, your limbic system is damaged, your verbal memory is gone, but these are yet growth. Do we have any chemical that we can induce into the brain to wake up this memory, to do things like that? It's just food for thought, just to tell you about the rehab of the so these are the organizing memory are all in the temporal lobe, which is one of the most commonly bruised part of the brain when the brain moves after a concussion or after an injury of some sort. The temporal lobe, which is here, hits the bone of the skull and produce a little bit of bruising, which eventually will produce damage and produce those things. Don't forget that great people, they ask Nick about when he goes and walk outside, they say you are drunk, etc., etc., etc. Great people, look at them. They are dyslexic. They don't know how to write, and they are famous. Right? Picasso, Edison, John Lennon, Da Vinci. So you don't use all your brain. You may have a little bit of dysfunction here and there. Who doesn't? But you can function.